elite and the action intellectuals of Camelot, Straussian, neocons, other configurations, but throughout one or another variant of the doctrine prevails. A quote from Samuel Huntington that you heard as an example. And on a more hopeful note, the popular struggle continues to clip its wings quite impressively in the wake of 1960s activism, which had quite a substantial effect on civilizing the society and raised the prospects for further progress to a much higher plane. It's one of the reasons why it's called the time of troubles and bitterly denounced. Too much of a civilizing effect. Well, what the West sees as the crisis, namely the financial crisis, that'll presumably be patched up somehow or other, but leaving the institutions that created it pretty much in place. A couple of days ago, the Treasury Department, as you read, permitted early TARP repayments, which actually reduced capacity. It was touted as giving money back to the public. In fact, as was pointed out right away, it reduces the capacity of banks to lend, although it does allow them to pour money into the pockets of the few who matter. And the mood on Wall Street was captured by two Bank of New York employees who predicted that their lives and pay would improve even if the broader economy did not. That's paraphrasing Adam Smith's observation that the architects of policy protect their own interests, no matter how grievous the effect on others. And they are the architects of policy. Obama made sure to staff his economic advisors from that sector, which has been pointed out to the former chief economist of the IMF, Simon Johnson, pointed out that the Obama administration is just in the pocket of Wall Street. As he put it, throughout the crisis, the government has taken extreme care not to upset the interests of the financial institutions or to question the basic outlines of the system that got us here, and the elite business interests who played a central role in creating the crisis with the implicit backing of the government. They're still there, and they're now using their influence to prevent precisely the set of reforms that are needed and fast to pull the economy out of its nosedive. As the government seems helpless or unwilling to act against them, which is no surprise considering who constitutes and who backs the government. Well, there's a far more severe crisis, even for the rich and powerful. It happens to be discussed in the same issue of the New York Review that I mentioned, article by Bill McKibben. He's been warning for years about the dire impact of global warming. His current article, worth reading, it relies on the British Stern Report, which is sort of the gold standard now. On this basis, he concludes, not unrealistically, that 2009 may well turn out to be the decisive year in the human relationship with our home planet. The reason is that there's a conference in December in Copenhagen, which is supposed to set up a new global accord on global warming, and he says it'll tell us whether or not our political systems are up to the unprecedented challenge that climate change represents. He thinks that the signals are mixed. To me, that seems kind of optimistic, unless there's really a massive public campaign to overcome the insistence of the managers of the state corporate sector on privileging short-term gain for the few over the hope that their grandchildren might have a decent future. Well, the picture could be a lot more grim even than the Stern Report predicts, and that's grim enough. A couple days ago, a group of MIT scientists released the results of what they describe as the most comprehensive modeling yet carried out on the likelihood of how much hotter the Earth's climate will get in this century, which shows that without rapid and massive action, the problem will be about twice as severe as previously estimated a couple of years ago. And it could be even worse than that, because their model does not fully incorporate positive feedbacks that can occur. For example, the increased temperature is causing a melting of permafrost in the Arctic regions, which is going to release huge amounts of methane. It's worse than CO2. The leader of the project says there's no way the world can or should take these risks. He says the least cost option to lower the risk is to start now and steadily transform the global energy system over the coming decades to low or zero greenhouse gas emitting technologies. And there's very little sign of that. Well, furthermore, while new technologies are essential, the problems go well beyond that. In fact, they go beyond the current technical debates about just how to work out cap and trade devices being discussed in Congress. We have to face something much more far-reaching. We have to face up to the need to reverse the huge state, corporate, and social engineering projects of the post-Second World War period, which very consciously promoted an energy wasting and environmentally destructive fossil fuel economy. It didn't happen by accident. That's the whole massive project of suburbanization, then destruction and later gentrification of inner cities. The state corporate program began with a conspiracy by General Motors, Firestone Rubber, Standard Oil of California, to buy up and destroy efficient electric transportation systems in Los Angeles and dozens of other cities. They were actually convicted of criminal conspiracy and given a tap on the wrist, a $5,000 fine. The federal government then took over. It relocated infrastructure and capital stock to suburban areas and also created a huge interstate highway system under the usual pretext of defense. Railroads were displaced by government-financed motor and air transport. The public played almost no role, apart from choosing within the narrowly structured framework of options that are designed by state corporate managers. They're supported by vast campaigns to fabricate consumers with created wants, borrowing Veblen's terms. One result is the atomization of the society and the entrapment of isolated individuals with huge debts. These efforts grew out of the recognition that I mentioned a century ago that democratic achievements have to be curtailed by shaping attitudes and beliefs. As the business press put it, directing people to superficial things of life, like fashionable consumption. All of that